Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a collection here. Recent headlines, summaries, all from CoinMarketCap's source material you shared. It really gives a snapshot, doesn't it, of,
Right.
all sorts of things happening in crypto.
It really does. Yeah, looking at this list, it's a real mix. You've got specific chains, market stuff, regulation talk.
Institutional moves, even like big individual trades.
Exactly. All in there.
So our goal today is pretty straightforward. Let's dig into these, pull out the interesting bits, the nuggets maybe.
Yeah, the nuggets.
Yeah.
And see what this handful of items tells us about the bigger picture, right now.
Make sure you get the key takeaways from this particular snapshot.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Let's jump in.
Okay, first one you highlighted. Headline says, TON is becoming one of the top chains for NFT activity.
Right. Now, this is interesting because, well, the summary itself is brief, but that headline alone, it signals something.
Signals what, specifically?
Well, we usually think of NFTs on, maybe Ethereum or Solana primarily. But this suggests TON is really carving out a space. Significant space, it sounds like. It points to growth, maybe adoption happening on chains you wouldn't first think of for, like, huge NFT volume.
So the NFT world is spreading out more.
Yeah, expanding, diversifying. It's a good reminder.
That's a great point. Innovation isn't just in one or two spots. Okay, moving on, you also flagged one about crypto tax in India.
Ah, yes, the India situation.
Mm-hmm.
So the source summary, it notes there's an active crypto scene there. It even gives a figure, right? €1 in current Bitcoin trading volume.
Yeah, I saw that, but
Then it mentions the tax regime, described in the article apparently as harsh.
and stifling growth, which, makes you pause, right? How can it be active and stifled?
It's a good question. And the summary adds that the article apparently talks about Bitcoin ETFs.
As like a potential solution, or maybe how they might impact things.
Something like that, yeah. We're just going off the summary, but it implies the current rules are a real problem. And people are looking at things maybe like ETFs
Yeah.
as a way to, well, navigate that. Or maybe ease the pressure. It's a tough balance.
Yeah, lots of countries are wrestling with that.
Exactly. Tax policy, it's not just numbers, is it? It shapes the market, how investors behave. That tension between innovation and regulation, it's global.
Definitely. Okay, speaking of big players, you also shared the Saylor MicroStrategy one. Saylor signals Bitcoin buy with tracker T's.
Right, this one, it's become almost a bit of a ritual, hasn't it, for people watching the market?
How so?
Well, when Saylor, his company, MicroStrategy, holds a lot of Bitcoin, uses that specific hashtag Bitcoin tracker.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty widely seen as a hint, a strong hint, that MicroStrategy is either about to buy more Bitcoin or maybe just did.
So it's not an official announcement, but like
A signal. Yeah, a clear signal the market's kind of learned to read from it, from a major institutional player.
it's like smoke signals for the digital age.
Using
Hashtags.
kinda, yeah.
Okay, and sticking with sort of official interest, another headline from your list mentioned a U.S. representative. A bill being introduced.
Yes, that's right, Rep. Burchett. The proposal is to set up a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve.
A strategic Bitcoin reserve. That sounds, well, significant. Usually you hear strategic reserve for things like oil. What's the source imply here?
Well, the summary puts it pretty directly. It frames this as signaling expanding government interest in cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Just the idea, that the U.S. government might even consider holding Bitcoin strategically. Forget whether the bill passes anytime soon. It just shows how the conversation is shifting.
Right, at the highest levels. It's not just about regulating it anymore.
Exactly. It's moving into potential adoption, maybe integration by the state itself. It's a different kind of conversation.
That definitely widens the lens on crypto's potential future. Okay, let's shift over to the platforms themselves. You included news from MEXC Exchange.
Yep. MEXC unveils new Launchpad featuring BTC to kick off BTC Trading Month.
So what does that actually mean? Launchpad, BTC Trading Month.
Okay, so exchanges like MEXC, they're always trying new things, right?
Right.
To get people trading.
Yeah.
A launchpad is usually where they introduce new coins or projects.
Right.
And by featuring Bitcoin, BTC, for whole BTC Trading Month, they're using the biggest name to drive activity. Probably special trading pairs, maybe contests, rewards, that sort of thing.
So it's a marketing push, basically.
Yeah.
Generate some buzz.
Pretty much. Boost engagement, boost liquidity. It's a standard playbook for exchanges.
Got it. Okay. And speaking of significant activity, you also pulled a headline about a big market move, a whale.
Yeah, the classic whale watch. Crypto whale moves 10,708th from Lido to OKX.
Okay, specifics are good. Anonymous wallet, big amount, 10,000 ETH.
Over 10,000, yeah. Worth, the source says, about $26.96 million.
Wow. And it went from Lido to the OKX exchange.
Right.
So why track that? I mean, people move crypto around all the time. Why is this move interesting?
Good question. It's about where it came from and where it's going.
Yeah.
Lido is mostly known for liquid staking, right?
Yeah.
Staking ETH. So when a big chunk of ETH moves from a staking platform like Lido to an exchange like OKX, market analysts often read that as a potential signal. A signal the owner might be getting ready to sell it, or at least trade it actively.
Well, okay. Doesn't guarantee a sale, but it's like a possible indicator?
Exactly. It's a data point. People watch these big moves to try and gauge, potential selling pressure or just shifts in what big holders are thinking.
Right. Reading the tea leaves of the big money. Makes sense. Okay. And the last one you included connects crypto to, well, more traditional finance products.
Yeah, the Nasdaq filing. Nasdaq files SEC Form 8K to expand crypto ETF benchmark.
Okay. Sounds technical. Form 8K, SEC. What's the core idea?
So Nasdaq filed this form in 8K with the SEC. This was back on June 2nd. And the purpose, according to the summary, is proposing a change. They want to change the benchmark for a specific ETF.
The Hashdex Nasdaq Crypto Index US ETF NCIQ.
That's the one.
So they want to change what this ETF tracks. Why does that matter? What does changing a benchmark signify?
Well, the benchmark is basically the standard, right? It's what the ETF is aiming to copy or track in terms of performance.
Okay.
So changing the benchmark for a crypto ETF like this one, it's a big deal because it changes the underlying mix of assets the fund holds or references.
Ah, so it could mean they're adding new cryptos or removing some or changing the proportion.
Precisely. Any of those. It could be based on market changes, maybe strategic decisions about what kind of exposure they want to offer. It just shows that these crypto investment products, these ETFs, they're still evolving. They're being refined as they get more integrated into the, traditional finance world.
So it's a technical step, but it points to bigger strategic thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Decisions being made at the institutional level about how to package and sell crypto exposure through formats investors are already familiar with.
Wow. Okay. So just looking back at this handful of headlines you shared, it's kind of amazing, the range.
It really is.
We touched on TON and NFTs, specific chain growth, then the whole India tax situation, real-world regulations, potential workarounds.
Then Saylor signals, a major institutional holder. Hints of government interest with that reserve bill idea.
What exchanges like MEXC are doing to get users engaged, big individual whale moves and what they might mean.
And finishing with the plumbing of financial products like Nasdaq, changing an ETF benchmark. It's all interconnected.
Yeah, it really shows how many different layers there are to the crypto world right now. You shared this diverse list, and looking at it all together.
You see the threads, right? Technology, regulation, market psychology, institutional strategy, individual actions. They're all weaving together.
Exactly. These things aren't happening in isolation, like the tax rules in India. That directly influences whether something like an ETF is seen as a viable option there.
Right. And government interest, like that reserve bill idea, even if it's just talk for now, could eventually influence how institutions view holding Bitcoin.
And those big whale moves onto exchanges, that can ripple out and affect market sentiment, which ties back to trading, maybe even how those ETFs perform.
You really have to look at all these levels at once to get a feel for the space. Each of these headlines, just from your source list, gives us a little window into one part of that whole complex picture.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, looking at just this snapshot you provided, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From TUN's NFT activity buzz, the whole India crypto tax complexity, and those potential solutions mentioned.
Michael Saylor's market signals, those legislative hints about government interests.
Exchange promotions like MEXC's Launchpad trying to read whale movements.
And even the technical adjustments in crypto finance, like that Nasdaq ETF benchmark change.
And just to reiterate, this all came directly from those recent news summaries you shared with us.
Right, straight from the source material.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Based only on this mix of things we've just talked about from the source material. Considering how all these different pieces, chain growth, tax policies, institutional moves, government whispers, whale migrations, ETF plumbing, how they're all constantly bumping up against each other and influencing things. Which one of these areas do you think might have the most surprising knock-on effect on the others in the near future? Something to ponder.